So we need to talk about Social Security because over the past few years, more and more Americans have been wanting answers as to how are we going to fix this problem. We've heard the Biden administration come out with different ideas and plans and proposals, one of them being which the Biden administration would send $200 per month or $2,400 increases to Social Security recipients every single year. However, that hasn't happened. We've heard the Biden administration stick to the promise of nobody making less than $400,000 per year will pay a penny more in taxes, which is great. But the problem is that also hurts the Social Security Administration, hurts the Social Security Trust Fund, hurts Medicare and things like that, which is why many lawmakers are bringing this up. Let's have the wealthy pay for their fair share of taxes, which means they'll pay more. That money would possibly go to Social Security and to Medicare, but we will see. They've also talked about what should they do as far as increasing benefits, keeping benefits the same, or actually making cuts. Well, something that a lot of people are speculating is that even though both parties are promising absolutely no cuts to Social Security and to Medicare, it's unrealistic because they haven't actually put together the plans. There's no way the Republican plan and the Democratic plan are going to align so that we don't see any cuts. That is at least according to multiple experts. Now, here's what I can tell you. Just earlier on this week, just a couple days ago, we actually heard from the Social Security Administration, and there's actually a new insolvency date. Okay, I want to bring that to your attention because this is important. This is extremely important, knowing when these funds are going to become insolvent. So let's talk about that. According to these new reports, Social Security would become insolvent in 2034. Now, we've also seen reports that it said it was 2035. That's what it was last year. Just recently, over the past month, we've seen more and more reports saying that was going to be 2033. And I've even seen a handful of reports that said, and these are over the past couple of weeks, it would be in 2032. So in 9 years. So as of right now, there's a gap between 9 years and 11 years. That's very problematic because we need to know the month that the Social Security Administration or the Social Security Trust Fund would become insolvent, because at that point, then we would see Social Security recipients get a maximum of 80% of their benefits. That is according to the reports out just the other day. Now, it's not just Social Security though. We also know a little bit more about Medicare, and this is where things are starting to get somewhat interesting. Because according to the reports, we can pay full benefits for Medicare until 2031. You're probably thinking 2031, that's longer, and it is. It's 3 years longer than last year's projection. So you know why this is interesting now? Because now what lawmakers are looking at is, okay, can we pull something from Medicare temporarily, push it over to Social Security, right? So that we know Social Security is going to become insolvent. We'll get 78 to 80% of our benefits. But could we pull a little money away from Social Security and push it over towards, or pull it from Medicare, push it over towards Social Security? Because now Medicare is going to be solvent for an additional 3 years. Now, that's what some people are already talking about. But this is why it's very important to understand these two dates, because again, we're going to see some major changes. Here's what I can tell you. We know that due to the downward revision of our GDP, our gross domestic product, and labor productivity, this means that there's less money coming into Social Security and Medicare. And based on the most recent reports, we're expecting to see a roughly 3% decline. And again, when we see a decline in our GDP, it means people are spending less money. If we're spending less money, this also means there's less taxes coming in. When we are spending less money, that also means the businesses that we are normally spending the money at are making less money, which also means less taxes. And if the business is making less money, it usually means they have less employees. And if there's less employees, that means there's less hours being paid. Okay? So, All this means there's less money coming in from the employee, the business, and our economy, which means there's less revenue going to help contribute to the solvency date. Okay? And if that's the case and it's less revenue, it means we will likely become insolvent much sooner. That's not what we want. Now, I know that many people are upset that President Biden can't pass an increase to Social Security. Many lawmakers have been pushing him to use whatever force necessary. If he has to do an executive action, you'll do it. And then if it's not something that he can do, the other party is going to fight it. However, it's very unlikely that he even does that, especially without the prior approval of Congress, because Congress wants to be in the mix. This is their job. It is their job to tell us how much money we can spend, right? It's pretty much their job to tell us where we're going to spend that money. Yeah, and I know a lot of people don't agree with that, but that is the purpose of Congress. Now, does Congress have any plans to fix Social Security or Medicare? This is the question that I get often. I get this so often. It's like, what is the Republican plan? Is it really to see cuts? No, it's to balance our budget. It's to make sure we reduce some social spending programs, right? Or really just any spending program, not technically a social spending program, but they don't want to make cuts to Social Security or Medicare, but they do want to make sure that the people that are getting this, okay, are getting the right amount of benefits. We need to make sure that they're not getting too much. Okay, so essentially, yes, it does mean a cut. And what about Democrats? What's their plan? Well, their plan is to tax the wealthy, take all that money that they're getting from the wealthy and give it over to people that are lower income and more needy. That's the goal with Democrats. The problem, no matter which side you're on, is that the other side controls the other house. So for example, let's say you're all for the Republican agenda, the Republican proposals. Here's the problem. Democrats control the Senate and the presidency. Well, let's say you're a Democrat and you want to tax the wealthy and give all that money to the lower income households that need additional help, right? Well, the problem is Republicans don't agree with the tax and spend. Okay, they don't want to do that. So what they want to do is they're just going to block that bill. How do they block it? By not putting it on the floor of the House for a vote. And that's kind of where we're at now, is that no matter if the Senate passes a bill, great, but it's unlikely that the House is going to pass the same bill. And if the House passes a bill, it's very unlikely that the Senate passes a bill and it goes to President Biden's desk for a signature. Meaning, at this time, it's going to be very, very unlikely and extremely difficult to get the same bill passed unless it's a bipartisan bill. Now, at this time, I don't see them really working on any bipartisan bills. So, here's what I can tell you. According to experts, they personally do not see something substantial passing in either direction, whether it's a cut or an increase, because the other party is going to hold the majority in the other house, which means, again, it is going to be extremely difficult. One thing I can tell you is that these talks are starting to ramp up. We're starting to get more information as to what people are considering for Social Security and for Medicare, what lawmakers are considering as a cut or potential increase or way to bring in additional revenue. All this stuff is coming out. The good news is over the next 2 weeks, lawmakers are on recess. And according to the reports out yesterday, that the White House is really pushing to get these talks and these discussions to speed up a little bit so we can finally have some answers. So as soon as we get more information and we get more answers, I promise I will fill you in on all the latest news and updates. Again, thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.